In a world where each of us strives for freedom and independence, there lies an invisible yet powerful force capable of subduing our will. It seems that our every action, every decision, is the result of personal choice, but is this really the case? Have you ever wondered where that strange feeling of discomfort comes from, that inexplicable pain that arises in moments of criticism or judgment? It's not just a fleeting sensation, it's an echo of something much deeper, perhaps even something we subconsciously avoid confronting. We are constantly reacting to words, glances, gestures. And each time we succumb to this impulse, we give away a part of ourselves, our freedom. Perhaps it happens imperceptibly, and sometimes it even brings short-term satisfaction, as if returning something lost. But it's important to realize one crucial truth: this need for immediate reaction is not a sign of strength, but an indication of weakness. When we react, we become hostages to circumstances, the opinions of others, the environment. It's tantamount to admitting, yes, your action has such power over me that I am forced to defend myself, to prove my point. Have you noticed that every reaction, in essence, demonstrates another person's control over the situation? It's a subtle game in which, by succumbing to the impulse, we involuntarily admit defeat. But what if there's another way? What if there's a way to break free from this vicious cycle and regain control of our own lives? The answer to this question could change everything. Take a moment to pause and consider what would happen if we stopped automatically reacting to external stimuli. This isn't about ignoring what's happening or being indifferent to the situation, but about a deeper process, establishing control over our feelings, thoughts, and ultimately, ourselves. However, before delving into this question, it's necessary to clarify a few points, as most people are not inclined to think about it. It's a common belief that reacting to external circumstances is natural and normal, that it's inherent in human nature. And this is indeed the case, but there's another side to the coin. Being human also means being susceptible to weaknesses, impulsiveness, and vulnerability. Modern society is often interested in keeping people weak and reactive, subject to the influence of the environment. As long as a person is in a state of constant reaction, they are incapable of creation and moving forward. Imagine a situation: a person is walking down a dark street, and suddenly a stone is thrown at them. The natural reaction is to turn around to find the culprit and retaliate. But what if they stopped? What if they decided not to move or turn around? It's this moment of stillness and resistance that distinguishes those who are in control from those who are controlled. The person throwing the stone doesn't always intend to cause physical harm. Their goal may be to provoke a reaction, to demonstrate their ability to control the actions of another person in this complex game called life. The worst aspect of impulsive actions lies in their simplicity, convenience, and predictability. An insult is followed by an immediate insult, aggression by defense. However, by succumbing to this habit, a person sinks deeper and deeper into a vicious cycle, from which few manage to escape. And here's the key point: those who truly control the situation never react, never show vulnerability. They realize that reaction is an admission of another person's power. As an example, consider outstanding leaders who have left their mark on history. Did they respond to every criticism or insult? No, because they understood that strength lies not in retaliatory actions, but in the ability to choose when and how to act. This is the skill that needs to be learned. If the reader realizes the need for change, feels that they are overreacting, allowing words, gestures, and external events to determine their feelings, actions, and life, then it's time to change the approach. The most damaging delusion lies in a person's belief that they have no choice. However, it's important to dispel this deception: there is always a choice, it's invariably present. It's just rarely presented explicitly. Succumbing to impulsive reactions is the domain of the weak, while the ability to act consciously distinguishes the strong in spirit. Acting is not simply responding to stimuli, but being able to manage one's emotions, thoughts, and perception of reality. This is achieved not through instant reactions, but through self-control. Think back to the last time you succumbed to an impulse. Perhaps it was a minor episode, a thrown comment, an unfriendly glance. What feelings did you experience? Anger, annoyance, the desire to respond, to prove your point. This acute need is a sure sign of losing control of the situation, a sign of dependence on external circumstances. Before taking a defensive position, it's important to realize that it's not your personal fault. This is a system of upbringing that has taken root since childhood. Society teaches that it's necessary to fight back, to prove your worth. It's instilled that a lack of reaction is a sign of weakness, that without protection, a person will be trampled. But this is a lie designed to keep you captive in manipulation. True strength lies not in impulsive responses, but in composure, patience, and absolute self-control. So how do you gain control of the situation and avoid becoming a victim of someone else's manipulations? The answer is simple, but it requires conscious effort. In the moment of attack, whether it's a verbal attack or a provocation, you must remain calm. Instead of giving in to an instinctive reaction, stop, take a deep breath, and carefully analyze what's happening. When a person pauses and distances themselves from the situation, an amazing transformation occurs. They stop being a puppet, jerking to the beat of someone else's desires, and become a puppeteer, setting their own rhythm. It's this ability that distinguishes the strong in spirit from those who go with the flow. However, it's worth admitting that not everyone is ready for such a transformation. Most people continue to act impulsively, remaining hostage to their emotions. And this is quite understandable, because not everyone strives to control their own destiny, preferring that others make decisions for them. But if a person is still ready to take the reins, the first step on this path will be to abandon automatic reactions. This will require considerable endurance and self-control, because there will be a strong temptation to defend oneself, answer the offender, and prove one's innocence. By overcoming this impulse, a person will feel an inner transformation that will open up completely new horizons. And from that moment on, there will be no turning back, because they will gain the ability to control their reactions and, as a result, their life. So, it's worth thinking about the choice, to continue to react automatically to external stimuli, or to gain true freedom. This decision requires deep reflection, because it's not just about changing a habit, but about a fundamental transformation of thinking. Society from childhood accustoms to reactivity, presenting it as a natural, human, and even necessary behavior for survival. But isn't this a delusion, rooted in a reluctance to admit one's inability to control circumstances? It's necessary to honestly answer the question, what does reaction give? Perhaps, in the moment, it brings short-term relief or an illusion of satisfaction. It may seem that in this way it's possible to win, earn respect, or restore justice. However, what remains in the end? As a rule, only a feeling of emptiness. Reaction doesn't create, doesn't transform, and doesn't create anything new, it only absorbs resources. It sucks energy, time, and attention, turning into an emotional black hole. In the relentless whirlpool of life, the world continues its movement, carrying away those who caused the mental turmoil. Events that once seemed defining fade in memory, losing their sharpness and significance. However, the individual, like a prisoner of time, remains bound by past experiences, repeatedly scrolling through painful moments in their mind. They seek justifications for their actions, mired in the abyss of self-analysis, exhausting themselves mentally and emotionally. But who triumphs when a person succumbs to impulsive reactions? Obviously, not themselves. The beneficiary is the offender or, even more sadly, a faceless system interested in the individual being in a state of distraction, emotional burnout, and mental exhaustion. After all, someone who constantly reacts to external stimuli is deprived of the opportunity for deep reflection, creative search, and critical understanding of reality. The truth that many prefer to ignore is that calmness and composure are a manifestation of strength. Silence and restraint are also strength. Strategic inaction, the ability to choose the moment and method of action, is the highest form of control. However, one shouldn't mistakenly take the rejection of a violent reaction as a sign of weakness or evasion of struggle. On the contrary, it requires colossal inner strength, available only to a few. Why does a person so often succumb to impulsive reactions? Because it's embedded in nature itself, it's a primitive defense mechanism. The brain, seeking to protect from danger, instinctively encourages an immediate response to a threat. But the same brain that once protected from predators in the wild jungles, today makes you react painfully to a harmless comment on social networks, a random insult on the street, or a reproach from a person whose opinion doesn't matter. The mind is programmed for survival, not for prosperity. And that is the main task, to reprogram it, to teach it new models of behavior. Imagine this: the next time someone tries to upset you, show restraint and don't give in to the provocation. It's not about a sense of superiority or a desire to prove something to someone, but about making a conscious choice in favor of yourself. After all, every response, every emotional involvement in someone else's game is a kind of concession, a transfer of priority to another person, a waste of your own energy on their goals. And the question arises, who really deserves such attention and power over your inner world? It is important to understand that reaction is not just a response to external stimuli, it is also a reflection of your internal state, a struggle with self-destructive thoughts and complexes that whisper in your ear about your own inferiority and the need to prove something. These inner voices are the most dangerous enemies, they are the ones that most often provoke us to rash actions. And the paradox is that these voices are not our own, they are just echoes of other people's words and assessments, learned from the world around us. But over time, we begin to perceive them as part of ourselves. True freedom lies not only in being able to ignore external stimuli, but also in freeing ourselves from these internal shackles. It is the ability to look in the mirror and say to yourself, I don't need to prove anything, I don't need to justify myself, I don't need to show anyone, even myself, that I am worthy. Because the value of a person is not determined by their actions or reactions, it is an integral part of their essence. The final challenge has been issued. It is not about external silence, but about deep inner silence. It is this silence that inspires awe, because in its absence a person involuntarily confronts himself, his hidden fears, innermost desires, and gaping voids. This is the true battlefield, where the battle unfolds not outside, but in the depths of one's own self. And as soon as victory is won in this inner struggle, no one and nothing will ever be able to enslave a person. Therefore, the question is asked again, is he ready to continue blindly reacting to external stimuli, or will he dare to look himself in the face, gaining absolute power over his life? If the answer is yes, then let him prepare, for the path to true freedom is thorny and requires considerable fortitude, angelic patience, and, above all, unwavering willpower. But one thing can be said with certainty, this struggle is worth it. If the reader has reached these lines, it means that something inside him has responded to what has been said. And this means that he is closer than ever to taking full control of his life and becoming its rightful master.